welcome to Domestic Diva DIY. My name is Sonia and today I am bringing you 10 stunning furniture upcycles that I have done, and I can't wait to share them with you. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sonia and you're watching Domestic Diva. So I had picked up, this is not necessarily ugly, it is quite damaged, but I had picked up one of these at I think it was it was Value Village. It was $3, and it does need some sort of help or makeover or a new life or something like that. I have several of these in my house that I use for different things, but I thought this one would be good to maybe as a side table, or I sometimes edit my videos in my family room, and it would be nice to be able to have like a little higher table to set my computer on while I sit on a couch. So maybe I'll use it for that. But I have come up with idea how I want to paint it, and obviously first I'm going to have to give it a little bit of sanding, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually take a power sander or if I'm just gonna try do it by hand. We'll see how it goes and make my decision based on that. But then I'm going to use some chalk paint because it is what I do. I love chalk painting, and I have this duck egg blue, and I've had this paint forever, and it is a bit thick, so I'm going to be adding water to it to thin it out. That's the beauty of chalk paint. You can just give it new life with just adding some water. And then for sure I'm gonna go over with black wax, and then the top so that's for the legs, and then for the top I'm going to do the linen white from Rustoleum, and I might use my country gray to do maybe a little pattern or something on top, but we'll see. All right, so let's get started then. So I had collapsed the piece just so it's a little bit easier to work. And then I have this, which is 80, I think, grade paper. And so I'm gonna try and use this. And then I have several other ones that I had picked up at Dollar Tree. Now when you use chalk paint, as I mentioned in my other projects, there's not a ton of prep work done, but if your piece has stuck on stuff or sticky stuff or tape or grease or anything like that, the paint will not stick. So there is a little bit of prep work required. Sometimes it's just as much as just washing the piece down, or sometimes it's just giving it a light sanding to get the stuff off. You don't have to strip it completely if you're just going for the chalked painted look. Okay, so that's good. I'm just gonna give it a little wipe. I just have some water here. I'm just gonna wet it a little bit just to give it a little wipe. Okay, now I'm going to shake my paint, and I'm going to paint my top first. And I'm using my cottage paintbrush from Benjamin Moore. It's a chalk paintbrush. So the first coat is on. Now I'm going to move on to the legs and let the first coat dry. So I'm going to add some water. And give it some shake and a stir. I think it's a good consistency, and I'm using a different brush just so I don't have to wash the other ones, since I'm gonna be painting the top soon enough. just show you the color. And I'm going to continue painting the rest of it, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. So the legs are all painted, and I'm just going to keep it at that one coat. I'm going to be applying black wax, so it doesn't need another coat of the duck egg blue, but the top will definitely need a second coat, and that's what I'm gonna do now, and I'll show you once it's all done before I do the black wax. So now that the paint has dried, I'm going to apply some dark wax onto the legs only. And the way I do it, I cover the whole area, and now I'm going to take my lint-free rag and take some of it off. So let me just show you up close the difference between one with wax and one without. I really like the color that it makes it with the black wax. So I'm gonna wax the rest of the legs. So I am done with the legs, and now I'm going to move on to the top part. I'm gonna do a little pattern. So for this, I'm gonna use my Chateau Gray, and I also have two different size of paint tape, and I'm going to make like a little pattern with it. Saturating my paintbrush heavily because I don't want it to make a huge mess. And don't forget to paint the edges too. And now is the best part, the reveal, and you want to remove the paint after you're done painting, so that way it doesn't dry and rip the edges. I'm going to let this dry and then show you how it looks in my decor. I picked this up. It is a rocking chair, and I picked it up on Kijiji for $20, and I want to give it a new life so it matches my decor on my front porch. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. Here are some of the materials that we'll be using. I will be using the Rustoleum chalk ultra matte paint in charcoal. This is a new paint for me. I usually always use Sloan chalk paint, so I will let you know what I think of this paint comparing to Sloan paint. I'll need a little sanding block. I love these. These are just from Home Depot. Lint-free rag, a paintbrush. I use the Legacy 100% 100% white bristle. Not sure what that means. And I can't remember where I got this, whether it was at Home Depot or... yeah, I can't remember. And I'm also going to be using the Sloan Soft Wax in Clear. So first I'm going to remove these and give a chair a good cleaning. And I'm just using water and vinegar spray. Now I'm going to sand it down anywhere, just in case if there's stuff stuck to it. Okay, now the chair is ready for a coat of paint. There was no other human being. So for the bottom, I'm just going to wet my paintbrush well and apply the paint that way. So I had finished the first coat. Now I'm gonna let it dry for about half an hour and apply the second coat. So I am ready for the second coat. Second coat has been applied. I'm going to let it dry and then I'm going to distress it a little bit and wax. Now I'm going to distress certain areas. So I didn't want to go too much. Just certain areas where the paint would rub off with wear and tear type of thing. And now I'm going to apply wax with a brush, and then once and take it off with a lint-free rag, and then I'm gonna give it 24 hours and I'm gonna buff it out. So here it is, all finished. I think it turned out really nice. I will be transforming or upcycling this pedestal table. I had picked it up at a local Value Village for $8, which I thought was a great deal. It is very heavy, solid wood piece, but I really don't like the orangish brown color that it's on, that it is now. So I will be painting it with chalk paint, and I will be using French linen chalk paint. And then, let's see, this is better. So French linen chalk paint, which I will paint the whole piece with, and then I will accent just a couple things with dark wax, and then I'm going to clear wax it. And the brush that I'm using, I can no longer find to link down below. So I have brushes that I've linked in my Amazon store that are good, just as good as this one. So make sure you go, if you're interested, check out my Amazon store under chalk painting supplies, and I will have the Annie Sloan chalk paint linked in a separate link. So the first thing that I'm gonna do, because there is no sanding required, and I checked the piece, it doesn't have any obvious things that need to be smoothed out, I will just give it a good cleaning. But depending on how that sticker right there is, I might sand that down, but I'm hoping that a damp cloth will clean it up. So that's the first thing you want to do. You want to make sure your piece is clean of anything on it. If you have to, you might want to give it just a light sanding if there's sticky stuff on it to take it off. But other than that, you're good to start painting. So that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clean it first, and then I'm gonna start painting. And I will most likely be applying 2 coats. So let me give you a little bit of a close-up. This will need about 2 to 3 hours to dry before I apply a second coat. So this had now 2 good coats on, and I'm going to let this dry for another about 2 hours, and then I'm going to move on to waxing. So I'm going to start using the wax now, and I'm just using the dark any Sloan wax, and I'm going to put it in just into these little crevices and the little designs, and as well at the bottom here, just to accent those a little bit more. So at this point I have decided that I was going to actually dark wax the whole leg, not just the accents, because I love the way it was turning out. So I just continued throughout the whole leg. I absolutely love the way the legs and the bottom turned out of the table, and I was contemplating whether I should do the same for the top, and actually did decide to wax the top as well. So I have decided to stain the top as well, as you saw, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. I will be adding the clear wax once this dark wax had time to cure a little bit, just maybe an hour or so, and then I'm gonna let the clear wax cure for a couple days, and then I'll just buff it out. So if you would like to see how I apply clear wax, I will have all of my videos linked down below. You can check it out so I don't repeat myself. But clear wax is important to apply because it is a protective layer. So it's like almost like sealer, and I use it on all my furniture that I redo, and it does make the furniture last and protects it for a lot longer. I can't stop looking at my dog. He's making me laugh, so it's hard to concentrate when he's laying like that right there. I had picked these up for $25 each. I have 2 of them, and I will be using them in my family room to go along with my table that I had made over a couple years ago. So I will be sanding the top just a little bit, not as much as I did with the coffee table, but just enough to get rid of the scratches and any imperfections that were caused by wear and tear. I will be painting the top with a watered down Paris gray, and then I'm gonna top it up with the black wax and then protect it with clear wax, and the bottom is going to be painted with the original Sloan original, which used to be called Old White. So I have cleaned the table already, the side table, and for the little crevices, as you can see, the little designs, which I will show you right now, these ones right here, sorry, my trusted assistant is here, for those little design details there, they were very dusty, so I used an old toothbrush to clean it all out. So for the paint mixture, I'm doing 3 parts water to 1 part paint. And the paintbrush I'm just using, it's a Legacy. Anyways, I got it at Home Depot. I went and I wiped some of it off just because I really want the imperfections to show. When I redid my coffee table, I sanded it completely down. There was no stain on it. I stripped it, I sanded it. This one, I wanted to give it a try without sanding it, but I still wanted a little wood imperfections like that one right there to show. And so I applied the paint and then I took some of it off just so that would come through. Now I'm going to paint the legs, and I'm using the old white or the original to do that. For the paintbrush, I'm using the Benjamin Moore chalk paintbrush, the cottage paintbrush. So that was one coat of Old White on the bottom. I'm just gonna show you what that all looks like. So as you can see, it's not fully covered, so it's going to definitely need a second coat. The top, I really like the way it looks, but it's not what I'm going for. So I need to kind of at least try to match it, but this is definitely a look that I could do on a different piece of furniture because I do love the way the top looks without the black wax. So I'm gonna wait for this to dry and then I'm going to apply black wax. So I'm going to use my black wax and a lint-free rag, and I'm going to just dip it and then apply it and then rub it in. So unfortunately this did not work the way I wanted to, so I will sand the top down completely. Because when I started applying the wax, the black wax, it started taking off the paint as well. And the paint was dry, so I'm not sure what, maybe it's the type of a finish that's on it that's not working, or I didn't rough it up enough. So I'm going to give it a good sanding. Okay, so I had sanded it down, most of it, as you can see, and now I'm gonna repaint it with the watered down Paris gray, and hopefully this will work. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry now, and then I'm gonna paint the second coat of white, and then I'm gonna do the wax. So I am going to apply the black wax now. So here it is with the black wax. I ended up using a brush to apply it. It just works a little bit easier. So I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit, and I'm gonna clear wax the whole table for maximum protection. And I already started working on my other table, side table, and I'm gonna do the same thing. So to apply the clear wax, I'm using the Sloan clear wax. I'm just using a dollar store brush. Dip it a little bit in. Make sure it's not overly saturated, and then I brush it on in a circular motion. And you don't want to put too much because it will be too tacky, but you don't want to put not enough. And then you will always, once it had some time to sit, I will come back with the rag and just wipe it off. So here it is, all finished, and I love the way it turned out. I think the top looks really good. And here are the details. If you can see, I didn't go overly heavy with the coverage just so it pops out. Today I'm going to be making over this beautiful TV unit. I'm going to be layering chalk paint and showing you how to do that step by step. But first I'm going to be doing some fixing up and using a wood filler to fill in all these scratches and dents that are in it. Some are pretty deep, so they needed to be filled. The wood filler that I'm using just came from Home Depot, and it can be any wood filler that you have. So the first step is to clean the piece off, make sure there's nothing on there. There was some sticky stuff on it, so I ended up using, because I didn't have Goo Goo Gone, so I ended up trying to sand it down, but it didn't work, so I ended up using some acetone just to remove the stickiness. Because I was painting it anyways, it didn't matter if the color came off a little bit, but you do want to be careful if you're not painting it or anything that you don't remove too much color, because the acetone will remove the stain as well. But if I didn't remove the sticky stuff, the chalk paint would not stick on it, would not go on it, and it would show through. I also gave the piece a light sanding just to remove any other type of sticky stuff or any grime that might be on it. To apply the wood filler, I am just using my finger. After I was done using the wood filler, I gave it a few days for it to dry completely, and then I sanded it all down for a smooth finish. And once I was done sanding, I gave it a good cleaning once again just to remove any of the sanded dust off. Then I moved on to removing the handles. Now I will be replacing those handles, but they did not come in time for this video to be posted. So I will be sharing that on my Instagram once they do come. And I am using any Sloan chalk paint in a Busan blue. It is a brand new color for me, and I am very pleased with the way it turned out. To apply the paint, I am using a very light coverage, almost dry brushing it, but not putting too much paint onto the brush when I apply it to the piece, because I want some of the black to show through. Make sure you stick around till the end, because not only to reveal what the project looks like, but also I will be linking a full playlist of all of my furniture makeovers that I have done in the past, and trust me, there are some pretty phenomenal pieces out there. So make sure you check out the playlist. It will be linked in at the end of this video on the end screen. So before I move on to the top, here is what the piece looks like, painted with that just light coat. I followed the same technique on the top with the paint. Once I was done with a dry brushing of graphite, I go back in with dry brushing of Busan blue. So I use the same technique, applying very little paint just to blend the paint even more. Now you could finish it here and move on maybe to waxing, but I wanted to blend it even more, and I'm using a bit of a different technique by wetting my brush with some water, and I just have it in a spray bottle and I spray my brush down, and then I apply paint, and I'm applying a Busan blue first, and then I just blend it all in. With that, it just gives it another layer of dimension, I guess, with the paint. Then I follow again with the same technique and just go with a little brush into little crevices with the graphite. As you can see, it's much later now, and I am the piece had a chance to fully dry, and I'm going in with some clear wax and just applying it with a brush and then taking it off with a lint-free rag. Once the whole top was finished, I moved on applying black wax, and I am using my black wax and a Sloan brush, and I do the same process where I apply it with a brush and then take it off with a lint-free rag. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, my name is Sonia, and I do tons of furniture makeovers on my channel, as well as some trash to treasure makeovers and some dollar store DIY. So if this is something that interests you, I would love it if you consider subscribing and becoming part of my YouTube family. And make sure you press that notification bell so you are notified whenever a new video is posted. I also have a blog and 2 other channels, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and all those links to those things are going to be in the description box if you want to check any of them out. I would just like to say that once I was finished applying the black wax to the whole project, I do reapply the clear wax again and take it all off. I just didn't want to bore you with the same process again. So here it is, and I could not be more pleased with the way this piece turned out. I love all the layers of the paint that it has, and the wax just added so much more to it. I have gotten this piece from a friend. She phoned me up and said she was getting rid of it, so then if I wanted it, she knew I like to upcycle furniture and things like that, so I took it, and let me tell you, this piece is heavy. It is solid wood. It did have, however, some dings on top, some scratches, some discoloration and whatnot. So the first thing that I will be doing is sanding the top down. Now, I'm not looking to get it to the raw wood, but I want to sand out some of the major imperfections. Some imperfections are okay, but these were more like, it looked like somebody put something wet and left it there, so it kind of lost its color and so stuff like that. I just wanted to buff that out, sand it out. I am using a hand sander, and to be quite honest with you, I just found a sanding disc in a garage. I can link it down below which number it was, but I can't quite remember right offhand. It was just whatever I had on hand, just because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't looking for something perfect, because I wanted it to look rustic, so I wanted some spots to be darker and some spots to be lighter. So, but I am using my hand sander to do that, and I'm just sanding the top and the little trim around the top, not the skirt, but just the trim. Once I was done, I wiped it down with just some vinegar and water just to dust it off and clean it off. And then I started with, once it was dry, I ended up staining it with this Old Man stain. I will link it down below. It is in Spanish oak, and I love this stains. Now it is a gel stain, so, and you don't need to strip the table before you apply the stain. It's not necessary, or sand it down. You can go right over top of it as well. I have several videos where I just went straight on top, and I am using a brush to apply the stain, and then I'm just using an old rag to rub it in. And you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. So once it was the first coat went on, I waited a little bit before I applied the second coat. I did only 2 coats. Then I moved on to painting, and I am using any Sloan original, or it used to be called Old White, and just a brush from Benjamin Moore. So I painted this, the base and I think it's called the apron of the table, with 2 coats of this paint. So once it was all finished, painted and dry, I ended up taking the same sandpaper and just sanding out areas that you want to look distressed. I did that for the skirt, the apron, and for the bottom and the legs. For the bottom, I am using the Rustoleum glossy chalk finish, and I put this all over where I applied the chalk paint. For the top, on top of the stain, I'm using this water-based sealer. I will link it down below, and a foam brush to apply it. I put down 2 coats of this, and you want to let it dry in between. And you also want to make sure that the stain is completely dry, so several hours or 24 hours before you apply it. So here it is. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. I love the contrast between the dark and the light. I think it's gonna be a great addition for anybody who wishes to have a farmhouse looking table. I have picked out this freestanding mirror. It's an oval wood mirror on Kijiji for $20. I have been looking for a mirror for my bedroom that's full length. I haven't had one for several years now, and I've been really missing one, but I couldn't find the perfect one. So this one, the shape and the size is perfect, the color isn't, so I wanted to make it to fit my decor. So I will be redoing it with chalk paint, my favorite way to redo things, and I will be using 3 different paints and using 3 different techniques for painting. I will be using any Sloan's, well, first coat of paint will be from Rustoleum, linen white, and I will be covering the whole surface with that. Then once that dries, I will be applying a watered down Paris Gray by Annie Sloan. I had to switch it to this tin because my other can broke. And then I will be finishing off with dry brushing French linen. And then I'm applying a clear coat of wax. Yeah. And then also you will need is a cup to mix your paint, painter's tape, and some brushes. So first step is the mirror needs a little bit of tightening, so I will be fixing it up, and then it needs some cleaning, so I will clean it before I start with the paint. So come along. So to clean it, I just used a wet rag, and you want to make sure that your mirror is dry before you paint or apply the painter's tape. That was a lot of work. Just to get into the little ovals, and add the paint. I just add the tape. I just did little pieces, and now I'm gonna start painting it. And I will be painting it with linen white, and I'm just gonna cover it up. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're layering paint, so but you want to give it a good coverage. So now I gave, I would say about 1.5 coats of white. I let it dry. With chalk paint, you don't need to wait too long to dry, probably about half an hour, 45 minutes. I had about 45 minutes. And I had mixed up my French linen with water, and a ratio is 1 tablespoon of French linen paint to 3 tablespoons of water. It's really up to you how watered down you want to make it. If you want less paint, you water it down more. If you want more paint, you water it down less. And I put a glove on, and I just have a lint-free rag that I'm going to put the paint, brush the paint on. Just so you kind of have a close-up to see what this looks like. Now I'm gonna let this dry before I apply the dry brushing. For the last coat of dry brushing, I have actually decided to mix up charcoal with Paris gray, just to create a bit of a darker gray. So here is the paint. I don't know if you can see, it's a fairly dark gray, darker gray, and I am using just a dollar store brush and a paper towel. So I'm going to dip the paintbrush lightly, and I'm going to brush off most of the paint, and then I'm going to dry brush it on. I love the way it turned out. I want to see all the different dimensions of paint. I think it just made it look so nice and rustic and antique, a bit of coastal farmhouse look, I think, anyways. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be upcycling this IKEA table, making it over into something completely different using some supplies that I've had at home. So you can pick these up for around 20 bucks at IKEA, and they're not bad. They serve their purpose, but you know, after a while they get kind of tired looking. So I thought I'd give it a little makeover. For the makeover, I am going to be using some chalk paint, the white original, which is like old white, kind of creamy white, then General Finishes High Performance top coat, water-based top coat, as well as a stain, wood stain in Special Walnut. You will need two different brushes, just a bristle brush for your chalk paint, or a chalk paint brush if you have one. I just picked this up at a dollar store, as well as a foam brush that came from a dollar store, and then a rag. So I'm going to be using a rag for my wood stain, this for chalk paint, and this for the top coat. I will be using this top coat for both the stain and the chalk paint, some sort of a protective cover. And then I had found this place on Facebook Marketplace that gives out free palettes. You just go there and pick whichever palette you want, and for free. So I had picked up several different ones just for different projects, and I'm going to be using this one. So I will need some tools to take this apart. I'm just not 100% sure what. I'm thinking a crowbar. And here are my assistants, supervisors, more or less, not assistants. So let's get started. So the first thing that, oh, and you also need wood glue, which I just remembered it's not here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this apart and cut it to measurement and stain it. So this part turned out to be the hardest part of this project, is removing these pieces of wood off. I was using a crowbar and a hammer. I did break off a couple pieces the end pieces. They seem to be the hardest to pop off. The middle ones came right off. So like I said, this ended up being the hardest part. So once I had them all removed, I do take off most of the nails. I do not take the nails off the parts where I will be cutting it off. So I put them on top of the table just to see how long I need them to be, and then I use another piece of wood as almost a ruler just to draw a straight line where I'm gonna cut. I use a miter saw to cut the pieces. Now that all the pieces are cut, I just take a sander just to sand off any loose pieces of wood, so to prevent splinters and smooth out anything that needs to be smooth. I did want the wood to look as rough as possible, but I didn't want anybody to get hurt, especially since this is going to be the top of the table. Now the wood is ready for staining, and I'm using that special oak stain, and I'm using a rag to apply it, and you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. I did decide to stain all the sides, even the one that I was gonna be gluing to the top of the table. Whenever I'm staining, if I'm staining a piece of wood that already had a stain on, I do prefer using gel stain, but on raw wood, I love using just a regular stain. While the stain pieces are drying, now it's time to use my chalk paint and paint the legs, as well as just the trim on the bottom. This did take 2 coats. So after I applied the second coat and it had time to dry, I applied some wood glue. You could also use liquid nails for this, and I glued the top the skid pieces onto the top of the side table. I think this just gives this table the farmhouse look for on the budget. If you were to buy a table that had this type of a top, it would cost you way more than just $20. So several hours later, I am inside now because it was raining, and I apply my top coat on with a sponge brush, and I apply 2 coats of this. I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think the little edge here that looks like live edge turned out really nice. It gave this table a whole new look, and it made it from maybe unusable to usable, and I think it would look great in any farmhouse type of decor in your home. I am upcycling this beautiful piece that I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace. I got it for $50. There are a few things that need to be fixed up, like the top is a little bit loose, and then one of the drawers is a little bit, one of the doors is a little bit loose, so it just needs to be tightened, and the top needs to be glued. But let me show you some of the supplies that I will be using for upcycling. So I will be painting the whole piece with any Sloan in Athenian black, which is a real black color, and I'm going to put a clear gloss lacquer on it, which is also by Annie Sloan. For the hardware, I will be trying the Gilding wax from Annie Sloan. I have never used this before, so it will be a learn with me type of video and see how it, like, I watched tutorials and I've talked to the lady that sold me this, and it should be fairly easy. It is the last thing that you do put on, whether it's on furniture or anything, but it is the very last thing you put on. And then some of the other items that I'll need is my favorite chalk paint brush, and then just a foam brush for the lacquer, some sanding block, some rags for cleanup, and then some screwdrivers for the hardware. You will also need some wood glue and a brush for the gilding wax. So let's get started. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the top that's loose, and I'm going to clean it first just on top and then glue it, so that way that can set while I work on the rest of the piece with cleaning and fixing it up. And because there's no visible spots on it for to clean off, I'm just using wet rag, and I just wetted it with water. I want this area to be completely dry before I put the wood glue on. So I'm just using some clamps to clamp it up or over there, just so it holds it in place.
And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other.
So I am using a sander just to sand a couple areas down. You don't have to do this. I always like to do it just in case if there's stuff that needs to be you need to smooth out, or any sticky stuff that I might have missed from the from just wiping it down.
We lose track of time, head up high, now we climb. Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond.
Once you're finished sanding, you want to wipe all the dust residue off so there is nothing left. So I think I'm ready to take the hardware off and start painting the drawers and the sides, but the top still needs a little bit more time to cure.
Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond road.
So it seems that the screws are stripped on the inside, so I don't think I'm going to be able to remove those. So I might just paint over them and then just go very carefully with the gilding wax to finish them up. So just to show you what the paint looks like. So I did the first coat. I'm going to let this dry completely. The top is still not ready, so I'm going to let that cure some more. And while that's drying, because I'm going to be using the paintbrush again, I'm going to put it in a Ziploc bag. And put a little elastic around it. That way it's not gonna dry out on me, but I don't have to wash it and then use a different brush because it would be too wet. But just a little trick and tip. So while I was waiting for the piece to dry, I was kind of looking at the top of it, and I'm kind of liking the wood look, but this is very damaged. As you can see, it has tons of damage on it, so I'm going to give it a little bit more sanding. I'm still using a hand sander, and then I'm gonna apply this Old Masters gel stain in Spanish oak, and this is supposed to be able to go over top of the existing stain already, so you don't actually have to strip it and then apply the stain. But because this has so many scratches, I just want to buff those out with the sander. So that is what I'm gonna do now. And you want to go in the direction of the wood grain. So while that's drying, I'm going to give a second light coat to the bottom part. There's just a couple areas that need some retouching. So now I'm going to start staining the top, and I'm using a rag to do so. And again, in the direction of the stain. So I'm going to let that dry. So now that the piece had some time to dry, I'm going to apply the clear gloss, the lacquer, on the chalk painted area. And I'm using a sponge brush to do so. So for the gilding wax, I am doing the little, well, I'm gonna do more stuff, but I just wanted to show you with the little knobs. And here is the wax. And I'm just going to squirt a little bit on the paper, just a little touch. And I'm just using a tough bristle brush to pick up some on, and then I'm just going to brush it on. And there. So just to kind of show you the difference.
Give me a reason to get out of bed. I need a minute to think, or maybe two. 'Cause yesterday I lost control.
Okay. Now I'm gonna move on to the furniture. While it's still drying, I'm gonna work on the knobs.
It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight tomorrow. I let my worries fade, let them sweep away. There'll be another day tomorrow.
Just to show you a little close-up,
The same mistake.
I think that looks really, really nice.
I did them all before, in every shape. There's a million ways to mess things up, and I need some time to figure out what to say and make our troubles figure out what to say and make our troubles disappear. Oh, tomorrow's near. It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight tomorrow. Let all our worry.
So I'm gonna go a little closer just so you can see. I'm going into little crevices just to accent them out.
Drop it, please.
So then I got a flatter brush.
Tomorrow I will set things straight. Tomorrow's gonna.
So I want to add a little bit onto that little circle right there, just to accent it out.
Worries fade, let them sweep away. There'll be another day tomorrow. It's gonna be okay, no matter come what may. I'm gonna set things straight tomorrow. Let all the worries fade, let them sweep away.
Add a sealer for the top. So for the top coat, I'm gonna use the General Finishes water-based top coat. No particular reason other than I had it on hand.
Tomorrow.
So here it is all finished, and let me tell you, I am absolutely in love with this piece and the way it turned out. I'm pleased that I left the top with the stain and the gilding wax. I just love it, and I was extremely impressed how easy it was to use the gilding wax. I was a little bit scared to use it. It was my first time, but I love the way it turned out. I will be making over this fireplace. It does have an insert as well that works. It's an electric fireplace, and it's going to go down into my basement. I am doing some changes down there, and I thought to cozy it up, to add a fireplace. Obviously, to add a gas fireplace would be very expensive, and I'm not sure. I'm sure it's possible, but without tearing up some walls. So I had found this one on Facebook Marketplace, I think it was, or Kijiji, either way. And I think I did barter a little bit to, I think that's what you call, to get the price down, and I had picked it up for $140. I did think that was still a little high. However, they must be really popular because the fireplace prices, electric fireplace prices have gone up quite a bit. So I obviously do not love the look of it, and so I had found a way to make it look a little bit like barn board, and I'm hoping I can achieve that look. I had played around with it a little bit on just a plain piece of wood, and I loved the end result, but I'm hoping that I can apply the same to the fireplace. So here are the materials that you will need to create that look. So here are the supplies that you're going to need. You don't have to use any Sloan chalk paint. This is not sponsored by any Sloan chalk paint either. I just love using any Sloan chalk paint, and it's not hard for me to get it. So you will start with, I had to transfer mine. This is Paris Gray, any Sloan, with a light gray chalk paint. And that will be your base coat. And then you're gonna follow with dark gray. I am using graphite. It is more on a black than dark gray, but it is the only dark gray I have, I guess. And then original, which is creamy color or off-white, or you can use white. So essentially you can use Rustoleum brand or any other brand of chalk paint that you love to work with or easy to get. You just need light gray, dark gray, cream, or white. And then you're gonna need some dark wax, brown wax, or antiquing wax. I am using soft wax by Annie Sloan in dark. And then I'm going to finish it off with clear gloss lacquer. This is in place of a wax. You can also use wax if you want. I have just been really enjoying using this and how easy it is to use it. So I've been just using that, but you can definitely use just normal wax as well. Then you need your wax brush, your paintbrush. I can find these online, so I have a link in my Amazon store to very similar brushes that you can get on Amazon, and anybody can get it, and they're actually quite a bit cheaper than what I have paid for these. Like, so I have like I said, I have found some on Amazon, which I will most likely be purchasing as well once I'm done using these. These have lasted me for quite some time, and they don't look like they need to be replaced yet. But when I do replace them, I will be buying those. And then you will need some lint-free rags and then some sort of a cleaner just to wipe things down. Sometimes I just use water. Sometimes I use water and vinegar. Sometimes you need something like Goo Goo Gone or something if there's things stuck to it. But that's all the prep work that I'm going to be doing on here, because it doesn't look like it needs any light sanding whatsoever. So the first step is to give it a good wipe down. So I just added a little bit of paper around, slid it underneath so I don't have to worry about getting my bottom dirty. So now I'm gonna apply the first coat. It doesn't have to be a very good coverage because you are layering paint again. So, but this is the only full paint coverage that you're gonna do, a solid paint coverage that you're going to be doing. And for that, like I said, I am using Annie Sloan Paris Gray. And I switched into this big can because my other can fell apart. And I had gotten these tools at Dollarama. This is what it looks like. It's very light gray. So the top is done, just to show you what it looks like. And now I'm going to move on to the bottom. I will not be painting inside because that's where the insert goes, so I don't really see the point. but I do have to thin out my paint a little bit. I did find it was a little thick going on. I just kept it that way on top because I didn't want it to have different texture on there, but I'm going to thin it out for the rest of the fireplace. So it is done now. I'm going to let this coat fully dry before I move on to the next coat. So now I am ready to apply another paint, and I'm going to go with any Sloan original or old white. It is a creamy off-white type of color, and I'm going to dry brush it. And the way you do that is you take your brush, you dip it into the paint, and then you take most of that paint off and then just brush whatever's left on. So I clean my brush, and you want to make sure that your brush is completely dry. So I'm going to use my rag to take the paint off. So just to show you what it looks like closer. So there's more, there's less, but that's how you want it to look. So now the next step, I'm gonna do exactly the same thing with graphite. So now I'm going to let that dry before I move on to waxing. Okay, so now that it had time to dry, I'm going to start with applying the dark wax or the antiquing wax. Any Sloan has waxes in dark, black, and white, and then the clear wax is the protecting wax. So this is what it looks like. So not sure if the camera is doing its justice, but this looks absolutely stunning. And the different layers of paint makes it look like wood grain a little bit. And I can't wait to complete the whole thing. So I switched to an angled brush because it just gets into the little crevices a little bit better. Now I'm just going to gently wipe off any little clumps or anything that might have gone on it. So I'm now going to add the clear gloss and the lacquer all over, and I will show you how I do it with the foam brush, and I will probably do 3 coats. I'll probably just show you the first coat just because I don't want to bore you with the same process over and over. So I won't go too thick. And you can kind of see where you've been. It kind of leaves like a milky coat on it, but that'll dry. So I'm going to let that coat dry completely before I apply another coat. Here it is, and I absolutely love the way it looks. I am loving the barn board look that the different paints gave it, and the antique wax elevated it to that next level. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them down in a comment. I will answer them shortly. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. And if this is your first time stopping by, I would love it if you considered subscribing, pressing the notification bell, and don't forget to check out all the furniture makeovers that I have on my channel. I will have a playlist linked at the end. So until next time, hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.